Well, welcome everyone to the Nyingma Institute Sunday Dharma Talk. My name is Donna Morton. I've been an instructor of Kum Nye at the Nyingma Institute for quite a long time. And even as though I've been an instructor, it's an endless student. It is a lifetime path of exploration, as are all the streams of study and exploration here at the Institute. So I was particularly interested in presenting tonight a particular interest exercise from the body of Kum Nye practice called cleansing breath. It's exercise number 13 in Tartan Tulku's initial Kum Nye text. And it's very simple yet profound. It's a way to cleanse the impurities in the body-mind system, subtle body energy system that accumulate and help prepare us for the new day. This practice is especially presented as an exercise that can be done first thing on arising in the morning, yet it may be also practiced at other times throughout the day. So I'm given that this is a very interesting breath practice. This might be the only Dharma talk of the year where you're suggested to have a tissue or something of the like nearby. You might find it handy. So make yourself comfortable however you are, on a chair, on a cushion on the floor, someplace ideally where you can sit in an upright and well-balanced yet relaxed manner. Kum Nye has both ancient and modern roots. Traditionally, it's rooted in the Tibetan medical texts and also the texts of the Vinaya, and also in the more the teachings of the subtle body energy system, the Tsalung system. And we'll get a little bit more into that. Tartan Tulku, the Tibetan Lama who founded the Nyingma Institute and the whole constellation of organizations, had a full and complete training in Tibet prior to the Cultural Revolution in '59. And he brought this body of experience and training with him when he started the Nyingma Institute in the early '70s. And so he was using this training, which was quite vast, both in Buddhist Tantra practice, but also in Tibetan medicine. His father was a physician as well as a Lama. He brought all those streams of experience and wisdom to bear when he encountered Western students here at the Nyingma Institute and tried to figure out ways to adapt practices that he was familiar with and trained in to suit the needs of the modern person in the West, really focusing on how to help balance energies, body, breath, and mind to ease some of the restlessness and build the concentration necessary for sustained meditative practice. So Kum Nye, as it was developed in the Nyingma Institute, really is a modern practice with roots in the tradition. It's the way it's presented in this text and the selection of exercises are intended to be accessible to anybody and also safe to practice without necessarily the guidance of a qualified teacher. Though it is really helpful, I think most of us appreciate to practice together and to come together in classes and such to really enhance our understanding and embodiment of Kum Nye. Just going to read a quote here. And Kum Nye offers us a way to feel the interconnectedness of body, breath, mind, and senses. And beyond that, our connection to the wider universe. And we use the means of breath, posture, stillness, movement, self-massage. So there's a kind of a wide variety of body of practices within the Kum Nye canon, so to speak. And yet the key to both our internal integration and a balanced relationship with the world lies within our feelings and sensations. He writes, we can nurture and heal both our bodies and minds by touching our feelings deeply and expanding the flowing rhythms they bring to us, for they are linked to the vitality of the universe itself. So we may speak of internal and external, inner experience and outer experience, but ultimately that energy is whole. So Kum Nye focuses on the feelings and sensations stimulated by the practices. And first being stillness, being able to come into stillness and become aware of the expressions of the body's energy, just being still. Usually we're in constant motion or preoccupied with the energies in our heads to really appreciate the nurturing and sustaining qualities of feelings within. So Kum Nye allows us to slow down and really start to tune in with our inner senses. So today I wanted to give a little context to this particular practice, cleansing breath, and then we're going to practice together. So it really starts with, I could say cleansing breath brings all faculties to bear. It first brings the element of posture, and we're going to go through the elements of the 7 gestures posture, which also closely links back to very kind of ancient, tradition, all the way back to the Buddha, okay? And the posture itself, the 7-point posture, has a lot to do with this Salung system for balancing the energies within by creating a posture that facilitates the free flow of energy within the subtle body energy system. So let's first dip in to the posture. Then we're going to look at the other elements that bring the exercise of cleansing breath to life. So first, we want to find a stable posture. So if you're sitting on the ground, on a cushion, and I know you can't see my complete body. If you're on the ground, perhaps you're somebody who's comfortable with lotus or half lotus posture. You're certainly welcome to adopt that if that's something you're comfortable with, but it's not necessary. Might want to sit if you're on the ground in a loosely crossed posture, one leg in front of the other. Important to have the pelvis elevate a little bit on a cushion. So you want the pelvis a little higher than the knees. If you're sitting on a chair, it can be helpful to sit a little bit forward, feet flat on the ground, heels underneath the knees, about a foot apart. This creates both this tripod stable base and a sense of groundedness, and also creates a stable platform for the spine to rise up. Straight, though straight meaning with some of its natural curves in place, well balanced, and yet supple. Hands in this tradition rest palms down on the thighs or knees. So this particular posture of palms down harkens back to the 14th century with Longchenpa. So this is the gesture or the mudra or the posture of resting in the nature of mind. You relax your shoulders. Can be helpful to roll the shoulders a little back and then gently release them down, opening the chest without creating any additional tension. Take some of the strain off the neck. And then imagine neck drawing back and up, perhaps a little liftedness through the crown of the head. And naturally, the chin will dip down a little bit. So bringing the length of the neck in line with the rest of the spine. This position will also help us relax the jaw. We can let the jaw release such that the teeth are slightly parted, lips slightly parted as well. Another gesture is to lightly contact the tip of the tongue up at the roof of the mouth, just behind the front teeth. Not with any pressure, just very light contact. All of these elements of this 7-point posture have or support this subtle body energy system and the circulation of energy within. And lastly, the eyes. Gently downcast, the lids could be a little heavy. Gaze is soft, not looking at anything in particular. This also helps to settle the winds within. So our energy is not moving outward so strongly. It can softly reflect back inward. And sense the whole posture, your body from base, crown of your head, arms, shoulders, upper body relaxed, the hands relaxed. Posture supports the balance of body, breath, and mind. And in subtle body energy terms, helps to align the main energetic channels. And Rinpoche writes in the text, energy flows smoothly in this position. And with enough time, all mental and physical energies become transformed into positive healing sensation. And now we're going to get a little bit into the context for this practice. So I've mentioned these three channels. So in the subtle body energy system that we're working with in Kum Nye, it's not important to know these necessarily, these concepts. They're alluded to in various places in the text, both in Kum Nye Tibetan Yoga and later in Joy of Being, also in the Tibetan Relaxation book. So you get sprinkling of that understanding or that background for Kum Nye. But because the practice is non-conceptual, we don't want to necessarily get caught up in kind of the more academic elements. But I think it can be helpful, and curiosity might lead us to want to understand it more. So these three primary energetic channels, there's a central channel that runs from the crown down the body, along the front of the spine. Maybe you can feel this. Just imagine it while you are sitting in the 7 gestures. And it moves down the front of the spine all the way to the perineum. It's about the diameter of a straw, can be indicated to be different diameters in different references, but you can think of it that way. Central channel. And then there are 2 side channels. One that's connected with the left nostril. Okay. That's the Nyingma channel. Okay, that goes down the left side. And the Roma on the right side, connected with the right channel. From that nostril down that right side. And both of these side channels, connect into that central channel at the level of the navel center. So, a few finger widths below the navel. Now, these channels the side channels actually spiral around that central channel at each of the levels of the energy centers. Okay, you've got the head at the crown, the third eye, you've got throat center, heart center in the middle of the chest, navel center, okay, just below the navel, also the secret center. But that conjunction of those channels, the right, the Roma, the red channel, and the left, Nyingma, the white channel, join into that central channel, just at the level of that navel center. Now, they have different qualities, especially if you're talking about from the perspective of Tibetan medicine. So that right channel is the solar channel. Okay, it's red. It relates to heat, to the sun. Okay. And it relates to the particular humor in Tibetan medicine called bile. So think of bilious, think of heat, think of fire, your gallbladder and liver on that right side of the body. And with respect to Tibetan medicine, both women and men have, in terms of that aspect of anatomy, we're very similar, okay? Gallbladder and liver on the right, and then on the left side, this white channel is our lunar channel. It has more cold energy, and it's related to the humor water. And on this side, we have our spleen, we have our stomach, we have kind of cooler organs. The central channel, which is blue, relates to the humor of wind, okay? These two side channels, karmic winds flow through, and the central channel is really our channel of enlightenment. Now the lung in the Salung system, lung refers to the winds or the energy that circulate through these channels. Channels are the tsa. In Tibetan, they may be known as nadi, in Sanskrit. And there are a number of different winds that support all the different systems of the body, the nervous system, the circulatory system, elimination, respiratory system, and so on. And there's a very subtle energy that rides on the winds and that carries the mind. And so this is a very subtle energy. And they have a certain analogy for it. So this wind has the property of motility, it circulates. And the mind is like a legless rider that rides the horse, the wind. So the wind is the horse, the mind is the rider. And so when the wind is disturbed, the mind is disturbed. So that's why when we really work on cultivating very soft and subtle breath, it helps to settle the winds within. So let's get into the practice itself. So we're actually working specifically on cleansing these three channels and on helping, doing so, balancing these humors. Right side of heat, bile, left side, phlegm, cold, central channel, neutral, though it can, the wind itself can fan the flames of fire, or in the winter can make that cold element even colder. So let's take a moment to take a little break if your knees are a little tired of sitting. Might want to move a little bit. Let's just circle the shoulders a little bit. Loosen the throat. So these three channels are also associated with certain attitudes, okay? And we may hearken all the way back to the three poisons that are articulated in Buddhism. And that left channel is particularly associated with attitudes with which we push things away. So aversion, dissatisfaction, and fear. The right channel, okay, attitudes with which we hold on to things. And that can include things like anger, which may feel like it's pushing, but we're actually holding on when we experience anger, but also desire and attachment. And in the central channel, what creates obscurations is dullness and confusion of everyday mind. Okay? So we're going to do 3 sets of 3 exhalations, and we're going to do this slowly. On the left side, we're going, as we exhale through the left, we're going to visualize a dull white stream. And as we're doing so, we're exhaling these attitudes of aversion, dissatisfaction, and fear. So let's start. If you need to, if you tend towards a little phlegm, might want to blow your nose in anticipation. So we start in the 7-point posture, 7 gestures. And we're going to start by blocking the right nostril, and we're going to use the right hand for that. Now, the instructions in the text says create a fist, or wrap your fingers around the thumb. And we can get even a little more specific. You can bring the tip of your thumb to your base of your ring finger, and then wrap the other fingers around it, with the exception of your index finger. Your left hand is going to rest on your thigh or knee. And first, let's just breathe naturally. And now focus on softly breathing very deeply. And let's just, for a few breaths, take a moment to bring mind into the body. And as you breathe deeply, expanding the abdomen, the rib cage, and if you can, even filling that area above the collarbones with air and gently releasing. Imagine filling all those trillions of cells within your body with fresh energy. It can help to just raise the shoulders slightly to allow the breath to move even higher in the chest. And then breathing one big breath in through both nostrils. Mouth is slightly closed. You're going to block the right nostril with the middle joint of that index finger, and slowly but completely exhale out of that left nostril. Even when you think the breath is fully out, exhale even more. You might feel that belly quake a bit. And then let's let the breath relax, find its natural rhythm. And let's do this again, once again, filling, breathing in through both nostrils, abdomen, chest, even in the upper ribs, blocking the right nostril, and then slowly but fully exhaling left. Can you imagine a dull white stream? And on this third repetition, you're going to combine the elements of breath, posture, mudra, and visualization. So this time as you exhale, imagine exhaling that dull white stream, and with it come residues of those attitudes, aversion, dissatisfaction, and fear. Okay, when you're ready, take a full breath. Blocking the right nostril and slowly but completely exhaling. And when you're done, you can return your hands to your legs. Touch into the sensations generated. These energetic knots within the system, common in the belly. So as we exhale that last bit, really drawing in that navel, getting that last bit of breath out, it really helps to balance and loosen those energetic knots in the system. So now we're going to go to the other side. Okay, so thumb to the base of the ring finger and wrap your other fingers around it, leaving the index finger clear. And now bring to mind attitudes with which you hold on to things. Might include desire, attachment, anger. As we exhale from the right nostril, we're going to imagine this as a dark red stream exiting the body. So once again, softly but fully bringing breath in through the nose, expanding the belly, rib cage, even at the tops of the lungs, above the collarbones. And when you're ready, blocking that left nostril, that middle joint, mouth closed, fully but slowly exhaling. Couple of relaxed breaths. And then again, second repetition, breathing in fully, bringing fresh energy to every cell. When you're ready, blocking the nostril, exhaling dark red stream. Keep exhaling as the belly maybe quakes a bit. And then release. Right hand resting on thigh or knee. And a final time, getting all those residues out related to attachment, desire, and anger. Breathing in fully. Exhaling. And you've completed those exhalations. Just sense into the body, feelings and sensations that have been stimulated. And this final set of 3 breaths relates to clearing of that central channel, where obscurations related to ignorance or confusion or dullness, may create some blockages. So for this, we're going to breathe, exhale through both nostrils. So as you breathe in through both nostrils and energy coming down those side channels, you imagine directing that energy up and out through that central channel. It's going to come out through both nostrils. So this is going to come out as a deep blue stream. Once again, attitudes, dullness, ignorance, confusion. So when you're ready, through both nostrils, breathe in slowly but deeply, filling whole embodiment with fresh energy, expanding belly, chest, upper ribs. Breathing out, but through both nostrils, slowly but fully. And as you're ready, once again, taking in full deep breath through both nostrils. Exhaling these attitudes with a deep blue stream. And final time. When you've completed the practice, simply sit, breathing naturally. And you might notice a little more clarity or spaciousness, even some renewed energy. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a practice from the range of breathing practices in our initial Kum Nye text that goes under Kum Nye Tibetan Yoga. There are also breath cleansing practices in the Joy of Being, which is the second Kum Nye text, and they are quite different. They're still done in 3 sets of 3 exhalations, but different colors, different technique. And you'll find in different systems, in different contexts, that the approach is a little different. You know, the colors are different, the technique is different, the mood, well, the hand position is different. So with hands down on the knees, this practice is really moving towards relaxation, preparation for meditation. You might see in another context, for example, when you're doing this 9-breath purification practice for the Nundro or in Tibetan medicine, they may actually take this mudra and place the backs of the hands right at the top of the thigh where it meets the torso, press down, extending the elbows, which really helps lift the shoulders. And it also, each of these things have, there's reasons behind them, helping to open the gates of the shoulders or controlling the winds in various ways to support the expulsion of these residues through the channels as we do the cleansing breath. So don't get confused. You know, whatever system or whatever context you're working with, we're not necessarily looking for there to be necessarily consistency in all of these different systems. But this is a very, in a way, a very kind of traditional way of doing the breath clearing practice. The suggestion is to do it immediately on arising in the morning when we've got, you know, we think about sleep as fairly passive, but the mind, you think about all the dreams, the mind is active throughout the night. And there's all kinds of emotions and negativities that we're processing in the dream state and in other aspects of sleep. And so there are residues that are left from this. And it may be part of what kind of clouds our consciousness a little bit in the morning when we get up. So this can be a way of renewing, clearing, and then renewing our energies for the day. That being said, we can do this at other times of day. You know, it may be helpful if you find this a useful practice to do it midday, do it before you go to sleep at night, and even do more than one repetition of the practice in the morning. So experiment. I do know that in the Sowa Rigpa, which is the traditional Tibetan medical practice, this is a strongly suggested practice to be a daily practice. So that is enough of a recommendation for me to want to engage it as a routine practice. Now, we took quite a bit of time with it, without all the explanations. It will take a little bit less time. One thing I can tell you is working with the breath, moving in deeply and also expelling firmly. You're also on an kind of an anatomic level. You're working with all of these diaphragms in the body. Pelvic diaphragm, the respiratory diaphragm, the thoracic diaphragm, and you're making, it's kind of like exercising them and making the breath flow more easily. So it's a wonderful practice to do at the start of your meditation, wonderful practice to start your Kum Nye practice, or simply just to start your day. Does anybody, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hear questions. Are there any questions that have come up for anybody during the course of this talk? All of these points could be elaborated on quite a bit. Yes, Dan. Do you think you can put your question in the chat? Let's see. More. Let me see if okay, chat. I don't see it in there, Dan.
I have a
So,
look. I have a
okay,
question. What
absolutely.
about how long would you suggest to do this practice?
I mean, how long would it take to get
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
practice?
yes.
Well, there's times when, you notice that the suggestion was to take a little rest in between exhalations,
Mm-hmm.
like breathe normally once or twice before doing the next exhalation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I will just do 3 in a row, then take a pause before the next set of 3, take a little pause for the last set of 3 without taking necessarily those rest breaks in between if I'm short
Mm-hmm.
on time. And then it literally takes just a few minutes, you think
Right.
about. So, if you've got more time, it'd be nice to sit for a couple minutes, just feel the energies within, kind of get adopt the 7 gestures posture. And then maybe just work with the breath for a minute or two. So I would say at most 10 minutes,
Okay.
at the
Great.
least a few minutes. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, Dan, you've been waiting. Can you unmute? Let's see if I can hear you through
Okay,
this.
can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, good. There's many images of the Buddha who's in meditation with his hands on his lap, one on top of the other. I
Yes.
meditate like that, but now I'm being taught to put my hands on my thighs. So what about that? I mean, can I go back to how I learned meditation with one hand over the other on my lap? Or what's the benefits of hands on your thighs, down, with your palms down?
Yeah, that's a good question. The mudra or gesture hand position that you described is a classic meditation mudra.
Yeah,
Hand,
exactly.
right. So in different traditions, and actually for different practices, you'll find in Kum Nye there are, uh, you know, there is this mudra expressed even in the breathing section, where back of the right hand in the palm of the left, with the thumbs lightly touching. The hands down position in the Nyingma tradition is fairly common for meditation. And that's what we use when we adopt for Kum Nye, because it's in this lineage. That's what we typically adopt in the 7-point posture, 7 gestures posture. But there's no reason why in your own practice you can't come back to that classic meditation mudra. I would just say if you're working, depends on, if you're working in the context where you're being instructed one way or another, then, you might just want to go with that. But certainly here, that's a very valid posture for meditation.
I find many similar um, exercises in pranayama, the Indian pranayama, and it very much like what you showed us today.
Aha.
And is that where some of this comes from, or?
Sure, the Buddha was in India, remember?
Of
So
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a stream of transmission that came from India into
Mhm.
Tibet. Yeah. And the Kum Nye exercises. I mean, all of this has, quite ancient roots, whether from India or also some things that were developed in Tibet, and there were streams, of course, coming from both China and India into Tibet. So Tibetan medicine actually brings elements from both Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine systems. But then there's the whole Buddhist transmission from India to Tibet. Yeah, so very good. This mudra of hands on thighs, as I mentioned a little earlier, goes back to the 14th century in Tibet with a particular master called Longchenpa, and it's called resting in the nature of mind. And it's very kind of grounding kind of posture with the hands. So, you can experiment. But if you're doing Kum Nye, I would recommend using that mudra. And Caroline, did you have a question?
I had a question, yes, Donna, about the diaphragms. You say 3 diaphragms, which is more than we have learned, I think, in school.
Yes.
And I heard or read that there are more even. Is that true?
Sure. There really are. Well, any of the horizontal structures in the brain, the floor, or the mouth, what we call the thoracic inlet, the thoracic diaphragm, the perineum, basically that's a diaphragm there, knees and feet. So all of those areas, those structures that are horizontal, can be places where we develop certain restrictions more easily. But in terms of breathing, if you breathe deep into the perineum, you actually get an expansion downward in the perineum, and you can feel that as well as that thoracic diaphragm. And then there's a diaphragm up here that as we can expand, the lungs come actually above the collarbones, and we can expand up into this area as well. And good to do that. And that's why, with the raising the shoulders subtly, we can actually help open up this area for the breath to come in. And it relates to those side channels. There are these gates that come underneath the collarbones, and that helps to open them up. I'm no expert on the subtle body energy system. I know just enough to be able to articulate it at a very basic level.
Thank
Yes,
you.
You're
Very
welcome.
helpful.
So I hope this has, provided a little encouragement just to explore this practice on your own. And perhaps some of you who are regular Dharma practitioners already engage something similar. So it doesn't take much time, but it's can have really profound effects, especially if done on a routine basis. It's also important as a Kum Nye practice to take a few moments, ideally a few minutes if you can, after the practice, to really open into the feeling experience within and the kind of sense of clarity and spaciousness that this practice can bring. And if you feel like your mind is still a little dull, you can repeat it. And you might find that there's yet a little bit more clarity to your experience. And then you can bring that more balanced, open, spacious presence into the rest of your day. So our time has come to a close. Let's take a few moments to consider the benefits of engaging this practice, exploring these teachings of Tartong Tulku, and establish the wish to share these benefits widely and freely for the benefit of all sentient beings. And let's seal this wish with a Kum Nye closing gesture. So if this is new to you, you can just follow along, interlock hands, back of the one hand, the forehead, and then we're going to switch hands. Other forehead, or back of the hand, forehead, and then open your arms wide in a gesture of generosity. And then bring hands down. And I thank you all for your time and interest, and hope this makes your evening a little bit more spacious and enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.